Most gardeners picture containers overflowing with colorful flowers and lush foliage all summer long. But in reality, container gardening often means constant watering, regular feeding, and endless maintenance. The good news is that some perennials make things much easier. These tough, drought-tolerant plants handle heat, occasional neglect, and inconsistent watering while returning year after year with minimal care. Once established, they continue looking beautiful without demanding constant attention. In this video, we'll explore 7 low-maintenance perennial plants that thrive in containers and provide season-long beauty for patios, balconies, porches, and small gardens, all while asking for very little in return. 1. Bergenia. Bergenia is one of the most dependable yet often overlooked perennials for container gardens. Commonly known as pig squeak because its thick leaves produce a squeaky sound when rubbed together, this hardy plant offers year-round interest with minimal effort. While many container plants struggle with drought, freezing temperatures, or summer heat, Bergenia continues looking attractive through changing seasons with very little maintenance. Its foliage is one of its greatest features. Large, glossy leaves create a bold, architectural look in pots and planters, bringing texture and structure even when the plant is not flowering. The leaves remain attractive throughout the year and often develop beautiful shades of burgundy, bronze, or purple as temperatures cool. In many gardens, the foliage becomes even more eye-catching during autumn and winter than during the growing season. As spring arrives, sturdy stems emerge carrying clusters of blooms in shades of pink, magenta, red, or white. These flowers often appear much earlier than those of many other perennials, providing welcome color while much of the garden is still emerging from winter dormancy. One reason Bergenia performs exceptionally well in containers is its adaptability. It tolerates partial shade, dry periods, fluctuating temperatures, and occasional neglect without losing its ornamental appeal. The thick leaves help conserve moisture, reducing the need for constant watering. Well-drained soil is essential because Bergenia dislikes sitting in waterlogged conditions. In fact, excessive watering causes far more problems than occasional dryness. During summer, a deep watering now and then is usually enough to keep the plant healthy. Cold weather is rarely a concern. Bergenia is highly winter hardy and survives freezing conditions with ease, making it a reliable choice for gardeners in cooler climates. Rather than replanting containers every year, gardeners can enjoy the same plant returning season after season. Pests and diseases rarely cause significant issues. Aside from occasional slug damage during damp weather, Bergenia is remarkably trouble-free. For anyone seeking evergreen foliage, early season flowers, winter interest, and exceptional durability, Bergenia is one of the finest low-maintenance perennials for containers. 2. Lamb's ear. Few container plants invite interaction quite like lamb's ear. Its soft, velvety foliage feels remarkably similar to the ears of a lamb, which explains its memorable name. Almost everyone who encounters the plant feels tempted to reach out and touch the leaves. Fortunately, its appeal extends far beyond texture. Lamb's ear is one of the easiest and most reliable perennials for patio containers, requiring very little care once established. Its silvery foliage immediately brightens arrangements and complements a wide range of garden styles, from Mediterranean-inspired plantings to cottage gardens and modern container displays. The pale silver leaves create a cooling visual effect during hot weather and pair beautifully with flowering plants of almost any color. Even when grown alone, the foliage provides enough interest to make a striking statement. Container growing suits lamb's ear particularly well because the plant prefers excellent drainage. Rich, constantly moist soil often leads to problems, while containers naturally provide the drier conditions it enjoys. Using a light, free-draining potting mix helps ensure long-term success. Once established, lamb's ear becomes highly drought-tolerant. It handles periods of dry weather with ease, making it an ideal choice for sunny patios, balconies, and gardeners who occasionally forget to water. During late spring and early summer, tall flower stalks may emerge bearing clusters of small purple-pink blooms. These flowers attract bees and other pollinators, adding ecological value to the container garden. Some gardeners enjoy the blooms, while others remove them to keep the focus on the ornamental foliage. Another reason for its popularity is its resistance to many common garden pests. Deer and rabbits typically avoid the fuzzy leaves, and serious disease problems are uncommon when the plant is grown in suitable conditions. The greatest threat is excessive moisture. Wet soil, particularly during winter, can lead to rot and damage the foliage. For this reason, terracotta pots and sharply draining soil mixes are often excellent choices. Lamb's ear combines beautifully with drought-tolerant companions, such as lavender, salvia, sedum, and ornamental grasses. Its soft silver leaves create contrast against brighter flowers and add texture to mixed plantings. Even a single specimen spilling gently over the edge of a container can create a relaxed, elegant look with almost no maintenance. For gardeners seeking drought resistance, unique texture, attractive foliage, and effortless beauty, lamb's ear remains one of the best perennial choices for container gardening. 3. Ice plant. Ice plant is one of those perennials that looks almost unreal when it comes into bloom. During flowering season, the plant becomes covered with brilliant shades of pink, magenta, orange, yellow, purple, and red, creating such an intense display that containers seem to glow from a distance. Despite its exotic appearance, ice plant is surprisingly tough and remarkably easy to grow. Its name comes from the tiny crystal-like cells that cover the succulent foliage. When sunlight hits the leaves, they sparkle as if dusted with frost or tiny ice crystals. The thick, fleshy leaves store moisture efficiently, allowing the plant to tolerate long periods of dry weather without difficulty. Ice plant is perfectly suited to container gardening because it thrives in conditions that pots naturally provide: abundant sunshine, well-drained soil, and minimal moisture retention. In fact, poor drainage is one of the few things this plant truly dislikes. Heavy, waterlogged soil can quickly lead to root problems, while sandy or gritty potting mixes help it flourish. One reason gardeners appreciate ice plants so much is its ability to thrive when other plants struggle. Intense sunlight, prolonged heat, and dry conditions rarely slow it down. Even during the hottest weeks of summer, it continues producing flowers while many other container plants begin to wilt or lose their color. Its trailing growth habit makes it especially attractive in containers, hanging baskets, raised planters, and rock gardens. The stems naturally spill over the edges, softening hard lines and creating a relaxed, cascading effect filled with colorful blooms. Maintenance requirements are minimal. Ice plant rarely needs pruning, frequent feeding, or regular deadheading. In fact, excessive fertilizer often results in fewer flowers and weaker growth. Most varieties perform best when left largely undisturbed. The bright blooms are also highly attractive to pollinators. Bees and butterflies visit continuously throughout the flowering season, bringing additional life and movement to patios and outdoor living spaces. Depending on the variety, many ice plants are surprisingly cold-hardy as well. They often survive winter successfully as long as the soil remains relatively dry. In many regions, excess winter moisture is a greater threat than freezing temperatures themselves. For gardeners seeking vibrant color, drought tolerance, pollinator appeal, and extremely low maintenance, ice plant remains one of the finest perennial choices for sunny containers. 4. Candy tuft. Candy tuft is a perennial that brings elegance and simplicity to container gardens. Rather than relying on bold, oversized flowers, it creates a refined and timeless appearance that complements almost any garden style. Its graceful habit and dependable nature have made it a favorite among gardeners looking for beauty without constant maintenance. In spring, candy tuft becomes covered in masses of brilliant white flowers that often conceal much of the foliage beneath. The effect resembles soft drifts of snow, cascading over the edges of containers, adding brightness and charm to patios, balconies, and garden displays. Although the flowers appear delicate, candy tuft is surprisingly resilient. Once established, it tolerates dry conditions well and thrives in containers because it prefers sharply drained soil. The evergreen foliage remains attractive long after flowering has finished, providing structure and texture throughout much of the year. Another reason candy tuft performs so well in pots is its naturally tidy growth habit. It forms compact mounds that gently spill over container edges without becoming unruly or invasive. This makes it ideal for softening the appearance of stone planters, raised beds, and terracotta pots. Full sun generally produces the best flowering display, although some afternoon shade can be beneficial in very hot climates. Too much shade, however, often reduces blooming and causes the plant to become less compact. Maintenance is minimal. A light trim after flowering helps preserve a neat shape, and may encourage additional blooms, but beyond that, candy tuft requires very little attention. It also performs surprisingly well in average or poor soils. Excessive fertilizer often encourages leafy growth at the expense of flowers, so modest growing conditions usually provide the best results. Candy tuft pairs beautifully with other drought-tolerant plants such as lavender, creeping phlox, sedum, and ornamental grasses. Whether used in cottage-style plantings, Mediterranean-inspired containers, alpine gardens, or modern minimalist designs, it blends effortlessly into the landscape. Pest and disease issues are rarely significant, particularly when drainage is good and airflow remains adequate. During peak bloom, the flowers also attract bees and other beneficial pollinators, adding ecological value to their ornamental appeal. For gardeners seeking evergreen foliage, elegant spring blooms, drought tolerance, and dependable performance, candy tuft is one of the easiest perennial container plants to grow. 5. Lavender. Lavender is often associated with elegance, fragrance, and classic garden beauty. But beneath its refined appearance lies one of the toughest and most self-sufficient perennials available for container gardening. In fact, lavender often performs best when gardeners resist the temptation to overcare for it. Native to the dry, rocky landscapes of the Mediterranean, lavender evolved under intense sunlight, poor soils, and long periods without rainfall. Those natural adaptations make it exceptionally well-suited to life in containers, especially on sunny patios, balconies, and porches. One of the most common mistakes people make is treating lavender like a thirsty garden flower. Too much water, rich fertilizers, and moisture-retentive soil often weaken the plant far more than occasional neglect ever could. Lavender thrives when conditions are relatively lean and well-drained. Containers provide exactly the environment it prefers. Because excess water drains away more efficiently, potted lavender is often less prone to root rot than plants growing in heavy garden soil. This becomes especially important during winter, when soggy conditions can quickly damage the roots. Lavender offers beauty throughout the year. Its silver-gray foliage remains attractive even when the plant is not flowering, adding texture and color to container displays. During summer, spikes of fragrant purple, blue, pink, or white flowers emerge above the foliage, attracting large numbers of bees, butterflies, and other pollinators. The fragrance is one of lavender's most celebrated qualities. A gentle touch is enough to release its calming herbal scent, instantly evoking images of warm Mediterranean gardens and peaceful outdoor spaces. Compact varieties such as Hidcote and Munstead are particularly well suited to containers because they maintain dense, manageable growth while producing abundant flowers. Another advantage is lavender's minimal feeding requirements. Over-fertilization often results in weak stems, excessive foliage, and fewer blooms. Modest soil fertility typically produces stronger fragrance, healthier growth, and more impressive flowering displays. Pruning is straightforward as well. A light trim after flowering helps maintain shape and encourages fresh growth, but otherwise the plant requires little intervention. Lavender is also naturally resistant to many common garden pests. Deer generally avoid it, rabbits rarely bother it, and most insect problems are uncommon. The one requirement lavender will not compromise on is sunlight. To flower well and maintain compact growth, it needs several hours of direct sun each day. Bright, exposed locations are ideal. Many English lavender varieties are also surprisingly cold-hardy, surviving freezing winters successfully when grown in well-drained containers. Even during the colder months, the evergreen foliage continues contributing texture and visual interest to the garden. For gardeners seeking fragrance, pollinator activity, year-round foliage, drought tolerance, and exceptionally low maintenance, lavender remains one of the finest perennial plants for container gardening. 6. Heuchera. If you're searching for a container plant that delivers color even when nothing is in bloom, Heuchera is hard to beat. Often known as coral bells, this perennial has earned its popularity primarily because of its extraordinary foliage. In fact, many gardeners grow it almost entirely for its leaves, with the flowers serving as an added bonus. The range of colors available is remarkable. Depending on the variety, foliage may appear deep purple, burgundy, copper, amber, silver, lime green, nearly black, or a combination of several shades at once. Some cultivars even change color throughout the year, creating containers that look different from season to season. A collection of mixed heucheras can sometimes create more visual interest than an entire planter filled with flowers. Despite their sophisticated appearance, heucheras are surprisingly easy to care for. They thrive in containers because they appreciate excellent drainage paired with consistent but moderate moisture. In heavy garden soils, particularly clay, the crowns can occasionally suffer during prolonged wet periods. Growing them in containers allows much greater control over soil conditions and drainage, helping plants remain healthier over time. Another advantage is their adaptability to shade. Heucheras perform exceptionally well on patios, balconies, porches, and courtyards that receive only partial sunlight. In fact, many darker-leaved varieties often develop richer colors when protected from intense afternoon sun. One reason gardeners value heucheras so highly is their long-lasting ornamental appeal. While many flowering plants provide only a temporary display, heucheras contribute color, structure, and texture throughout much of the year. In milder climates, many varieties remain evergreen or semi-evergreen, ensuring containers never feel completely empty. The foliage itself is incredibly diverse. Some leaves are smooth and glossy, others are heavily ruffled, marbled, veined, or metallic in appearance. After rainfall or morning dew, the leaves often shimmer beautifully in the light, adding another layer of interest to container displays. During late spring and summer, slender stems rise above the foliage carrying delicate bell-shaped flowers in shades of pink, coral, red, or white. These airy blooms attract bees, hummingbirds, and other pollinators, bringing additional life to the garden. Still, the foliage remains the true highlight. Maintenance is refreshingly simple. Aside from removing occasional damaged leaves and trimming spent flower stems, heucheras require very little attention. Most varieties naturally form neat mounds that remain compact and attractive without becoming invasive. They also have modest feeding requirements. Excessive fertilizer can dull the vibrant foliage colors and encourage weak growth. In most cases, a light application of compost in spring provides all the nutrition they need. Their versatility is another major strength. Heucheras pair beautifully with hostas, ferns, ornamental grasses, ivy, sedges, begonias, caladiums, and other shade-loving plants. Bright lime green varieties provide striking contrast against dark foliage, while silver-toned selections soften mixed plantings. Whether used in woodland-inspired containers, cottage gardens, contemporary patios, or minimalist balcony displays, heucheras blend effortlessly into almost any design style. Most varieties are also highly winter-hardy, returning reliably year after year. Even if severe weather damages some foliage, fresh growth typically emerges quickly once spring arrives. The primary challenge is avoiding waterlogged soil during winter and protecting plants from extreme drought during intense summer heat. Beyond that, heucheras are remarkably resilient. For gardeners seeking season-long color, fascinating foliage, and dependable container performance, few perennials offer as much value as heuchera. 7. Ornamental grasses. Some of the most beautiful container plants aren't flowers at all. Ornamental grasses have become increasingly popular because they provide texture, movement, structure, and year-round interest while requiring remarkably little care. In fact, many gardeners discover that once they start incorporating ornamental grasses into containers, they find themselves wanting to use them everywhere. One reason these plants perform so well in pots is their natural toughness. Many ornamental grasses evolved in challenging environments such as open prairies, rocky hillsides, windy plains, and drought-prone landscapes. They are naturally adapted to intense sunlight, poor soil, and periods of dry weather, making them ideal candidates for low-maintenance container gardening. Different grasses create dramatically different effects. Blue fescue forms compact blue-gray mounds with a clean, contemporary appearance. Fountain grass produces graceful arching foliage topped with soft plumes that sway elegantly in the breeze. Japanese forest grass cascades over container edges like flowing water. Feather reed grass provides strong vertical lines and architectural structure. Carex varieties offer softer texture and often perform beautifully in shadier locations. Whether you prefer compact forms or bold focal points, there is an ornamental grass suited to almost every container style. Another advantage is their exceptional longevity. Unlike flowering plants that bloom and fade, ornamental grasses often remain attractive for many months and sometimes throughout the entire year. One of their most appealing qualities is movement. Flowers are often static, but grasses respond to every breeze. Their leaves sway, shimmer, and rustle gently, bringing constant motion to patios, balconies, and garden spaces. This subtle movement creates a sense of calm and makes outdoor areas feel more natural and relaxing. Some taller varieties even produce a soft whispering sound as their blades move against one another. Maintenance could hardly be simpler. Most ornamental grasses require little more than an annual cutback in late winter or early spring before new growth emerges. There is no constant deadheading, no frequent pruning, and no complicated fertilizing routines. Many varieties are also highly drought tolerant once established. Their extensive root systems allow them to withstand hot, dry conditions far better than many traditional flowering plants. Ornamental grasses pair beautifully with flowering perennials as well. Combining them with lavender, salvia, sedum, coneflowers, or gora creates balanced plantings filled with texture and visual contrast. Their beauty often extends beyond summer. Many grasses develop stunning autumn colors ranging from golden yellow and bronze to copper and burgundy. Seed heads and plumes frequently remain attractive throughout winter, catching frost and snow in ways few flowering plants can match. Some grasses are arguably at their most beautiful during the colder months. Pest and disease problems are generally minimal. Deer typically avoid them, rabbits rarely cause damage, and serious insect issues are uncommon. As long as containers provide reasonable drainage, most ornamental grasses are exceptionally resilient. Landscape designers often rely on grasses because they add sophistication to container arrangements. They soften hard edges, create visual connections between plants, and introduce movement that makes outdoor spaces feel more polished and professionally designed. Perhaps best of all, ornamental grasses continue looking attractive even when they are largely ignored. For gardeners seeking effortless containers filled with texture, structure, motion, and year-round appeal, ornamental grasses remain among the smartest perennial choices available.